Let me start the seminar by asking this. How many sports fans do we have in the room? Sports fans. Okay. How many people have ever heard the term, you can't teach speed? You ever hear that? Right? And there's a similar term in basketball, you can't teach size. I absolutely love that picture. That's like me standing next to Dominic. It's like, what do these sayings mean? When you can't teach size, you can't teach, what do we mean when we say these things? Shout out. There are some things that just come naturally that are innate that you can't teach. It's the same thing with DJing. I consider myself a phenomenal instructor of DJing, but I can't teach just anybody how to DJ. If they don't have some of the core abilities and right talents, I'll never be able to teach them how to be a DJ. If you pay your DJs as employees, you will sleep like a baby, okay? Isn't that cute? You know why babies sleep so soundly? Because they're not cheating the government. They don't have to worry about every phone call that comes in and every letter. One of the things that Stephen Covey says in this book is always treat your employees exactly as you want them to treat your best customers. Jay, we talk about it all the time in meetings, right? How do you treat our customers? How do you treat our bride and groom? You treat them great. Well, I know my job is to treat my employees the same way. Not only that, you should have a subscription to Rolling Stone, Spin, any of these magazines. I mean, stay on top of your industry, be the expert, come to conventions. Now I'm preaching to the choir. Obviously, you guys are here, but these are the things you can do to continue to be the expert. If you're going to inform, you have to be the expert. Physically fit. And I can see I'm already pissing off the fat, ugly DJs in the room, but physically fit. I actually have three. Kelly's shaking her head like I can't. I have three reasons why physically fit is important. First of all, just like a good look, I think somebody who's physically fit strikes a better first impression. Second of all, I think it says something about the mindset of a person who takes the time to keep themselves in some kind, you don't have to look like Marcello with your shirt off, but just keep yourself in some kind of physical condition. And then third, when it's done right, and that's important to understand, when it's done right, this business is physical. It takes a lot of work. If you're loading out of an event and you haven't broken a sweat, then I don't think you did your job that day. If you're not a little achy in the knees and whew, then man, you probably could have worked a little bit harder. But getting back to Twitter, here's what I like about Twitter. 140 characters, that's it. You can't be boring on Twitter. You are either interesting or you are ignored. Nobody can be boring on Twitter. Okay, one person can be boring on Twitter. This guy was so boring, that guy got reelected. That's how boring he was. Right? You ever see that scene in that Titanic where they're shoveling coal into those big engines down below? That's what this industry does to our ego, okay? We have brides and clients that come up and hug us and tell us we're the greatest and we made their day. We get huge cash grants. Not me, but some of you, I understand, get big cash grants. Never got one in my life. You know the term, put them out to stud? Who was the horse that did so well? I'll have another. This year, he won 2 out of 3. So that horse is now being put out to stud. Do you know what that means? He will live the rest of his life on a farm, and other horse owners will bring is it a mare? And he'll say, I'll have another. Like that's gonna be the rest of that horse's life, man. Not a bad way to live, you know? Now, I have not prepped Rich on this, so I'm just gonna ask Rich a couple questions, and from your knowledge, I want you to, when did you do your first music mixing job? Okay, so pretty solidly a year ago. 1 year ago, pretty much almost a year to the date. At that point, how much experience did you have in the DJ business?
I didn't know a damn thing.
You didn't know a damn thing about it.
I remember you took me into the back room.
Right. Ooh. That's part of the hiring process. There you go. In case you're interested. And that didn't take long, right? That was over in 2 or 3 minutes. But this was the filthy 15 that this Parents Music Resource Committee came up with. And by the way, I don't know if you missed the coincidence or the irony, but the fact that Al and Tipper Gore, as a couple, Tipper comes up with this, And Al creates the internet, which is the greatest hub of pornography ever.
21-year-old, who I don't consider a kid anymore, 21-year-old to me is a young adult, and I say to them, you know, we have a meeting, and I say, look, you're getting to the point where you can put your sound system together, it's going to be about a $4,500 investment, blah, 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 blah. And the next day I'll get a phone call from mom saying, so Junior just came home and he was telling me about this investment in gear. That shocked me the first time it happened. Now I'm kind of used to it. 21, 24, 27, a lot of millennials are still living at home. And again, that's not a bad thing as a business owner, because if I've got a young guy living at home, guess what? He doesn't need to make as much money as the guy who's 23 and he owns his own house already. So that's not a bad thing. There are plenty of songs, and I'm sure you can probably think of a few, that have that initial rush factor, but then a minute, right, Mars? I'll give you a perfect example. This to me is one of the songs that everybody asks for, but then a minute into it, it's like, right, and then like a minute in, they're like, who is this, the outfield, whatever happened? So, keep in mind that sometimes you throw that song, you get that initial reaction. It doesn't mean you have to stay with it. It doesn't mean you have to play all 4 minutes of that song.
Sense of rhythm and a love of music, essential. It is, I always thought growing up, because I love music, I thought that was a universal thing. I thought everybody not only loved music, but had a sense of rhythm. But we've all seen people that clap on the 1 and the 3, right? You're like, stop that. You find the 2 and the 4, you know? How can you do that?
Do you see Happy Yes? Do you think that ride is saying, Jake, stop stealing the spotlight? You think this, look at this guy. He's going, man, that brother can move. Right? These guests are not saying to stop stealing the spotlight. These guests are saying, wow, this DJ created these moments that helped us have a better time. Don't be afraid to shine at parties, okay?
If you know anything about Sinatra's career, it kind of went like this, right? He had moments where he was on top of the world, and then he had moments when he was yesterday's news. Well, this was one of those times where he was kind of yesterday's news, and he was pissed. He was talking about getting out of the industry, I'm going to retire, this, whatever. Really moved Paul Anka. Paul Anka was really moved by this, so he said, well, if my idol, Frank Sinatra, is going to retire, he needs a send-off song. He needs a farewell song. So he sat down specifically to write this song for Frank Sinatra. And as Paul Anka explained, he used words that he wouldn't use. He tried to imagine, like, I ate it up and spit it out. That's not something Paul Anka would say, but it's something that he could picture Frank Sinatra saying. So he gives the song to Sinatra. The song is a huge hit. 75 consecutive weeks in the top 40. It's a huge hit. So much so that Paul Anka's record company was pissed at him for giving it away, and they made him record his own version. But we all know there's only one signature version of My Way.
But it's a subtle thing. It comes across. Jay did the same thing with the air guitar. He didn't wait till the guitar solo and then say, air guitar. He said it right before so that people could process the command, prompt, whatever, and then start going like this. Is that your picture there? They start doing the command just as the guitar was starting. So timing is key.
Let me ask you a question. How many people remember the bicentennial? How many people remember? July 4th, 1976. How many people were not even born? How many people's parents hadn't even met yet? Yeah, hate you. It was a big deal in my household. My parents are historians, my dad especially, he's a big history buff. So this was our Christmas card that year. That's how geeked out my parents got about the SNSB standing up, and if you think you've seen him somewhere, I would fit in very well. The moment when a songwriter sits down and comes up with a melody, comes up with a lyric, comes up with a concept for a song, I find that incredible. I was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just a couple weeks ago, and they had these original lyrics kind of under glass that you can see, right, Johnny? That was just like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, because this is the moment of creation when somebody sat down. And it's so funny to see how many of them are on old hotel stationery, because, you know, all these people on tour, and that's when they come up with ideas. If I can leave you with any advice, if you want to be great in anything in life, and I think that's why we're all here, right? We want to get better as DJs, and better as business owners, and better as entertainers. It's not good enough to focus on one of these three things. It's not good enough to focus on two of these three things.
it's critical that you focus on all three. I know a lot of guys who run incredible businesses, but they need to get themselves in physical shape. I know a lot of guys who are in great physical shape, but their businesses are going down in tubes. I know a lot of guys who are very religious, but it's a little bit more on one of those other two aspects. So when I looked this word up and when I saw it on my bracelet, that's the reason why I'm not taking this off, because it's a constant reminder to me that if I aspire to be great, and I certainly do, that it's not enough to focus on one of these three things or two of these three things. I really need to focus on each one. So I thank you all so much for being here early this morning and being a part of the seminar.